Hey everyone, on today's episode of Fanservice, we're going to be talking about time travel, plus we have an awesome director phoning in to talk about this movie, Crave. It's going to be an epic episode. It's our last live show of the year, so let's go out with a bang, all on today's episode of Fanservice.
Congratulations! You've somehow acquired a time machine. We'll ignore the horrible things you probably had to do in order to steal or buy it and instead focus on the fun part. What happens next? Theory number 1, Novikov's self-consistency principle. This is, hands down, the least satisfying time travel theory. Novikov had this very Calvinist view of time travel where basically all of time has been written out since its inception and there's nothing you can do to change it. If you go back in time and try to make changes, all the things you think that you're mucking up were in fact meant to be changed by you. Sure, you might be able to move around in time a little as a tourist, but nothing you do changes anything. This theory pretty much eliminates free will, which makes it pretty depressing. Theory number 2, the Back to the Future theory. Now, this is really a variation on Novikov's self-consistency principle. Under this theory, you can move around in time, but you can't bully the universe into doing your bidding. If you go back in time and try to change things, you might find yourself literally fading away or just winking out of existence like Marty McFly. The time stream is determined to keep its shape, and if you try to change it anyway, it'll literally just delete you from existence. Now, let's go to the opposite extreme with theory number 3, the Doctor Who theory. There's a highly improbable but incredibly fun theory that says the universe really is a wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey mess. Travelers can muck about in it all they want, changing things on a whim. In this theory, though, imagine the universe is like your hungover uncle and time is the car you're always asking to borrow from him. You can take it wherever you want as long as you don't blow it up or bring it back so ruined that even he can't recognize it. There are infinite do-overs and infinite chances to make a real difference in people's lives. This is the most common time travel theory you'll see on television, but really not very probable at all. Theory number 4, you can't kill Hitler, but you can become your own grandfather. What I mean by this is basically there are what Doctor Who also calls fixed points in time. Certain big things absolutely must happen. You can't kill Hitler, sorry. You can't slip antibiotics into Europe's water during the Black Death. You can't give pre-colonial Native Americans machine guns to go level the playing field. But you can make small, inconsequential changes. If, for example, you're just not that important in the grand scheme of things, sure, go have sex with your young, sprightly, sexy grandmother and become your own grandfather. It won't mess up the timeline at all. You can usually do things like invest in the stock market or gamble or earn yourself a nice chunk of change and really live a comfortable life using your future knowledge, all without making any difference in the timeline because you are just not that important. But hey, at least you get to enjoy yourself with a clear conscience. Theory number 5. I like to call this the you break it, you bought it theory. Eureka and Primeval have some of the best modern TV depictions of this. Sure, you can go back in time and you can change things, but when you do, you are stuck with the result. You break it, you bought it. So you don't get these infinite do-overs like you do in Doctor Who. A lot of times, you don't even know you changed the timeline because if the changes are big enough, you might be a completely different person if you were ever born at all. There's just one universe with plenty of people mucking about in it, but since you change yourself along with the rest of the universe, odds are pretty good that you'll never know if you achieved your goal. Now, I really like this one in my entertainment in particular because it's really fun to see actions have real consequences and watch how people have to deal with their new and unexpected reality. Makes for some good shows. Number 6, the alternate timelines theory. This is the most scientifically plausible time travel theory and the one I think they're using on my favorite time travel show, Continuum, which you should all be watching. Basically, you're not really moving around in time. When you think you're going back, you're actually creating an alternate dimension that branches off from that point. So let's say you go back in time and you do kill Hitler as a baby. Congratulations! In the new universe you've created, baby Hitler is dead, and time is about to move in a whole new, unpredictable direction. Good for you! But that doesn't do a bit of good for anyone left behind, because they're still stuck in the old universe where you were born. Nothing has changed for them. In an alternate timeline universe, you're essentially going back in time to either do good deeds for total strangers, like killing Hitler, or do horrible things to total strangers, like, say, using your future knowledge to enslave the world population. Either way, doesn't make a bit of difference to the people in the timeline you just left, because they literally live in another universe. Theory number 7, good old Einsteinian relativity. This one's real, but only shows up in hardcore non-warp drive science fiction novels. To grossly oversimplify it, and I apologize to any physicists watching right now, basically, the faster you're moving, let's say in a spaceship, the less relative time appears to pass for you. Depending on your speed, when 1 year of time passes on a very fast spaceship, 1,000 years of time would pass here on Earth. The faster the ship, the greater the difference. This used to be one of the main reasons some unimaginative people said space travel was pointless. If we send a colony out to a habitable planet outside our galaxy, say 20 years might pass on the ship, while 20,000 passed here on Earth, that's 5 times longer than all of written human history, so what's the point? For our purposes, the point is that it's a very real form of one-way time travel, which is awesome. So, that wraps up my top time travel theories list. When this is posted online, we want you to stop by the comments and give us examples of your favorite time travel theory at work. I already mentioned that my beloved Continuum seems to be operating on alternate timelines. Give us some examples of your favorite time travels, movie, books, TV shows, etc. And maybe we'll decide that yours are even better than mine. Probably not, though, because now we're going to show you a trailer for Continuum, which is a show you ought to be watching.
2077. My time, my city. When terrorists killed thousands of innocents, they were condemned to die. They had other plans.
Central? I'm separated from my team. I need backup.
Who is this? How did you find this channel?
What year is this?
What year are you from?
2077.
The war begins now.
You're under arrest.
For what?
For what you're going to do.
You saying he's part of a gang?
A very dangerous one. You can expect well-coordinated, violent criminal activity and some unorthodox tactics.
There's a war coming
How can you be so sure?
because we're going to start it.
How do you get back to 2077?
We're here. We can't go back.
So, Continuum.
I love it. I do.
I've watched about 2 episodes of it so far, and I get sidetracked watching things with
Animation, because he can't handle actual live people doing something. It all
so
has to be drawn out for him.
it has to be drawn out for me because this is my time capsule. We're talking about time travel.
Really, what's in your time capsule?
I went back in time to join Harvard when I was a kid.
Really? Congratulations. So, are we in an alternate timeline right now where
Very
that
much
happened?
So. Alternate timeline.
You
I
know, what
definitely
that
think
means
this is a sign
is
of it.
the original you is still stuck in that crappy timeline that you were born in, where you don't. What did you do? Go to college and study? What was it?
Astronomy.
Astronomy. Nice theory. I thought it was graphic design, but sure, whatever.
So that's a prime example right there of the way I think time travel would work. I think if I were to go back in time, I would never be able to get back to where I'm at.
That I actually, based on everything we just said with the top 7 list,
Yeah.
Totally. Here's the thing with time travel. There's time travel theories of reality, and then there's time travel that makes really good television.
Yes.
And these two are very rarely related at all.
Well, I mean, I watched a movie the other day called Safety Not Guaranteed.
Yeah, I like that show.
It was really good, and it ends with him going they were in a timeline where they already affected the past. Apparently, I'm spoilers to tell you that right now. But the whole idea that there's one timeline, I just don't think happens, because when you go back in time, you didn't go back in time a long time ago.
Well, here's the thing. That gets back to the very first thing on the list with Navikov's self-consistency principle. It's a depressing thought that, okay, say you do go back in time, but everything is predestined. Everything you've already done was meant to be. So if you're going to do that with the safety not guaranteed, you'd be in this horrible infinite loop of you discover it because it has to be discovered, because you went back in time and made these alterations, because you discovered it. And that's
to me, that's not appealing as a time travel thing.
No.
I love Back to the Future. I think that was
yeah.
awesome the way they mix things up. But I think, in all honesty, if you were to go back in time, you would never be able to get home again.
No.
Because you did something that altered and splintered off into a different timeline.
And that's one of the things that makes, I know I keep praising Continuum because it's really well done, but makes it really fun is the main character just wants to get back home to her family, and other characters keep actually saying to her, I don't know if your family's going to be there if you try to do that.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't care. I just have to believe they're there. I'm going to do it. And they never really spell out if it's alternate universes or if it's the horrible, like I said, self-consistency principle where you're doing this recursive loop because you always have done this recursive loop.
And I find it funny because you had 7 things.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think time travel is so prevalent in the geek culture? Like, it's something we talk about. It's in Futurama. It's the whole basis of Futurama.
Because we want to be able to play in history. Time travel as a fictional concept is an excuse for any modern person to go play in a historical period. We know about history because of books and TV and movies and things like that, going all the way back to cuneiform tablets in the ancient world. And all of us kind of wish that we could go up and be like, hey, dude, Julius here. There's this river called the Rubicon. I just want to watch. I'm going to be filming over here while you cross that. Are you cool? Yeah? We're good? Okay. Or people want to go back and change things because, especially with terrible world events, I mean, the classic killing Hitler thing, everybody really wishes they could make life better. I like the fact that a lot of time travel where you try to go back and make things better just makes it worse or creates something equally bad but different.
Well, I mean, that's the whole yin-yang karma thing. If you go back and kill Hitler, something bad's still going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not just with him.
Yeah.
People may have the best intentions, but I like the idea of playing in time. You had it right. We don't ever really deal with a lot where they go to the future. We always see time
because
travel where they
nobody
go to the
really
past.
cares about that. I mean, even Doctor Who, if they go to the future, it's such a fantastical planet. It's not like they go to like 21.
Yeah, they go way in the future, like the world ending and stuff. I would want to go to the future. I don't know about you, because we know what the past is. I want to go see things that I'm not going to be able to see in my lifetime.
I would love to see some of the technologies that we discuss on this show. Like, oh my goodness, imagine the type of buildings we're going to be able to make when they basically perfect 3D printing technology. So you essentially have a giant 3D printer as a scaffold, and it just prints up your building.
May take a lot longer than actually building it by hand, but whatever.
Not necessarily. I mean, depending on the material science aspect of it, if you've got the carbon nanotubes and whatnot going on, and it probably wouldn't just be one giant scaffold, but the point is, we're going to be able to do things that we can't do right now. And that's the fun of time travel, is being able to, for me, would be, it's not just the ray guns, it's the, what kind of building do you live in? Yeah.
Because we go to the past, if we went to the past and let's say we were in the same timeline, and we couldn't create divergent things, you wouldn't really want to touch anything because it's the butterfly effect thing.
Well, that depends on which theory you're talking about. If your theory is...
So you broke it, you bought it.
You broke it, you bought it theory. Now, in fiction, that's been really well done, especially with Primeval and Eureka. I was really surprised with that. Have you watched either of those shows?
I've watched both, yes.
So with Eureka in season 1, you get to the end of it. Sorry, spoilers, the show's been off the air for a while. You can cope. But you get to the end of season 1, and they change time. And because it's kind of a lighthearted dramedy, I was completely expecting that season 2 would begin with them like, and now we fixed it. No. Dude loses his wife, loses his unborn child, loses his best friend. It's a comedy!
So, if we were to actually do time travel today, how bad do you think people would go and be? Because we would act straight fools on Family TV Crew. We would go back and be like with the Easter Island statue, you'll see us and put it on the back.
So
and
it
we'd be
depends
like
on,
photobombing things.
Here are the 2 theories that I think that people would play with the most. One is, if you know that like the inconsistency principle is true, if you know that nothing you do can affect things, you become a crazy tourist. You do go back there and you're climbing on top of monuments and ruins and things along those lines just because you can. You heckle battles because you can, because it's not like it makes a difference. Now, what'll happen a lot of times, I think in that case, if everything is set, you get there to heckle the battle, and you just get shot with a random bullet because you weren't supposed to be there, that type of thing.
That's an interesting way to put it. The universe will find a way to balance itself out.
But then the other side of things is, what if you are creating splintering universes, an infinite number of splintering universes? I think what would happen there is resource exploitation. So let's say an oil company figured out how to go back in time, except what they're not doing is going back, they're just creating a whole new universe. It starts, same starting point that we have here. You know everything there going in, but you're a little bit further back. Okay, great. You have just completely changed. You can go in and do crazy resource mining. You don't have to worry about your own family and kids. There might be some doppelganger versions of them over here, but they're not really related to you, are they?
I like the idea of time travel. One,
I don't like the thought of people doing
no,
that.
because there's so many different ways you can do it. But from a realistic standpoint, I think the only one that makes any sense is the Einstein theory.
Yes. And that one's very unsatisfying for people because it's based on real math, and real math doesn't work as well as narrative fiction does. So,
but if we were to actually come up with a time machine, we couldn't just jump into DeLorean and go 88.8, as cool as that would be.
No.
We can't get in the machine from H.G. Wells and have the thing spin around and we just sit there.
Which would be awesome.
I think it would be something more along the line of like, what was it, Timeline, the Michael Crichton book, where they went back to France. I think it would be something more like that, kind of like a teleporter thing, where they would have to find some way to make you go... How would you go backwards in time?
Here's the other issue, though. Time and space. People forget with time travel, the Earth moves. So if I were to move forward in time by one day, the planet wouldn't be here anymore. I would just die of asphyxiation in space like that. For all we know, the orbit of the Earth is littered with dead time travelers right now who just, whoopsies, forgot about the space part of it.
Like there's time travel parties and where we see those meteor nights.
Exactly.
Those are all them coming
That's
through
just
the
dead
atmosphere.
time travelers who are idiots and didn't realize that they've got to move in space as well as time. So
I guess, would you be able to calculate moving in space and time with the Einstein theory? Because that's the only one that's based in sound.
Well,
logistics.
I mean, keep in mind, that theory isn't that you're moving backwards in time. You can only move forward. So all that really is just sending a rocket to another planet. I mean, okay, you slow down when you get there, so time slows back down to the speed that we're at now. I like it just because, like, okay, let's say that you are on let's say you go to colonize another planet, and it took 20,000 years of their time to get there. You get there, it's not really fully ready yet. You send down everything you need for terraforming. You just do a little loop around the solar system or whatever so that 1,000 years pass there. All of your terraforming gets done. Then you get off your ship. Yay! Everything fixed.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. So, I mean, that's not really as fast time travel to be like, prehistoric time travel. But how would you go back in time? Would there even be a possible calculation to do that?
Not right now. I don't want to say no because we've got minds like Stephen Hawking out there, and who knows when it comes to, especially with science the way it's going right now, all kinds of new things are being developed. I think it'd be awesome if you could find a way, but the number one reason why people say time travel has never existed or will never be invented, where are the time travelers? Why aren't they in the audience right now heckling us?
They may be, but they're just not here yet. They're going to be here.
Maybe they're in the form of an adorable 8-year-old over there who's just shape-shifted to get back
marshmallow
here.
snowmen, which are just delicious.
Isn't that a great cover for a time traveler?
I know, right?
I agree.
You have to have some sort of cover. So we've talked a lot about Continuum. That you're not allowed to talk about that anymore. What else? And Doctor Who, we're not allowed to talk about Doctor Who.
I barely mentioned Doctor Who.
Well, because what is your personal favorite time travel theory that you had in the show and movie?
As far as the theories, I like the alternate branching timelines a lot. We're not going to mention the show that they're on,
yes.
but I think that makes the most sense on a logical level, and scientifically, there's a lot of support for the idea that there are alternate realities. On a narrative fiction level, I'm gonna come back to Eureka and Primeval. Actually, I was genuinely flabbergasted when Jack Carter fixes the timeline, and then. Whoopsies, he's no longer married to his wife and not expecting his child, and he just has to cope. And then they did it again in season 4. They go back in time completely accidentally, change everything, and...
Now, is that just lazy writing? Were they out of ideas?
No. What happened with that was season 3 wasn't very good, and they desperately needed to reboot the series. And so they used time travel as an excuse to reboot it and change a lot of things. And I approved of it. That was a nicely done version of it. Primeval did the exact same thing. I don't know what their reasoning was with the UK version of Primeval, but... That's
the one where the dinosaurs are coming through the rips in time,
yeah,
right?
I have issues with that show, and for that matter with Terra Nova, which is also a time travel show.
I didn't like Terra Nova at all.
Because that's not what dinosaurs look like. We know that's not what dinosaurs look like. I know that's what you saw in Jurassic Park, but that just throws me right out of it when they use those animations.
I thought Terra Nova, the secret would be they were actually on another planet.
I don't think it's another planet. I think it's an alternate dimension in the past.
Yeah,
is what was going on with Terra Nova.
So I'm glad this series canceled. I happen to like what you broke it, you bought it type of theory.
Yeah.
Because, I like the alternate timelines, but I really like the idea of going back and Jack with something. Oh, what's going to happen? Like
you've got consequences for your actions. You're not just all hanging out as a tourist. Now, a couple time travel books I'd like to quickly recommend.
Oh, this would be good.
Actually, they really are. Connie Willis has two of them in particular that are fantastic. I cannot recommend them highly enough. One is a comedy. It's called To Say Nothing of the Dog. Anything I say would spoil it. Just go read it. It's mostly set in a light Victorian farce, but also in about 200 years in the future. It's just a fun read. And the other one's called The Doomsday Book, and it's a deeply depressing read, but just as good, where somebody accidentally ends up during the Black Death in Europe, time traveler from the future, and it's not pretty. Actually, the writing is beautiful, but what happens to them isn't necessarily that pretty. Those ones are just two of my absolute favorite time travel novels. Cannot recommend them highly enough.
I've actually read a time travel novel. I like The Time Traveler's Wife.
Oh, really?
I thought that was a really well done book.
I am so impressed. Did you actually get an audio book, or did you have someone sit down and read it to you?
I read it to myself. It had pictures and
impressed.
everything.
Wow.